So today we want to focus on instant availability using our HyperBoot add-on, which is a free software product included in our Active Image Protector product line. So regardless if you use agentless or agent-based backups, you can use this technology to instantly boot from your created backup files on any new machine, for example, on a disaster, to have a temporary failover machine with a few clicks in a few moments. And I want to explain the technical details now. So for today, I have prepared two environments. One environment is my VMware AE6i box. It's an AE6e 6.7 machine with a couple of VMs running on it. And on the other side, I have my Hyper-V 2019 machine, and I have also a couple of VMs on this environment. So I want to focus today on VMware AE6i and Microsoft Hyper-V, but of course HyperBoot also support other hypervisors. For example, we supporting Oracle VirtualBox, VMware Player, or VMware Workstation. But from performance-wise point, please always prefer Microsoft Hyper-V or VMware AE6i. Just these two hypervisors offers the best performance using HyperBoot. Yeah. So of course you can use the smaller hypervisors I explained before, but always keep in mind you will never have the same performance as using Hyper-V or VMware AE6i. And the minimum operating system to install and use HyperBoot is Windows 10. That's the minimum operating system requirement. Of course, your backups can be from a really old operating system like Server 2003 or Windows XP. Yeah, that's not a problem. But the machine you want to install HyperBoot to use this functionality needs to be a last recent operating system like Windows 10 if you talk about desktop operating system. If we look into server operating system as minimum requirement for HyperBoot, then we talk about 2012 R2 server or newer. Yeah, so here you also use older operating systems from server as well. Yeah, so just for your first information. As I said, I'm running on a 2019 machine and I already installed HyperBoot on my machine. And let's have a look into the interface of HyperBoot. The application itself is very small and lightweight operating processing engine. So it's just a few megabytes on your machine. And then we can instantly directly start with the disaster recovery. So on the left side, you choose the backup storage, then you choose a recovery point and the image file, and then you drag and drop to the target hypervisor. So by default, if you, for example, running a Windows 10 machine and the Hyper-V role is enabled or something like that, then you will see Microsoft Hyper-V local already in your list because local installed or enabled hypervisors are detected automatically by the software. Only remote hypervisors like a remote Hyper-V host or an AE6i machine in the network, you need to click first on Add Hypervisor. So here you can add Hyper-V or VMware AE6i environments with a few clicks. After these steps are done, we can start with the instant recovery, instant availability of your backup files to a new environment. So let's start first choosing the backups. So I have here two image chains from different machines. And first, for example, I choose my 2019 Essentials backup. And now it opens a dialog box. With this dialog box, we can now specify the settings. For example, I have now the target in AE6i machine. So I can choose the version of AE6i, for example, latest recent one. Then the firmware, so BIOS or UEFI is detected by default, but operating system needs to be chosen if you have made this backup agentless. So in my case, it's a 2019 operating system in the backup file itself. Now we can specify how many cores and how much memory we want to assign to the VM on the AE6i machine. And now here's a very important setting. Save HyperBoot recovery point 2. So by default, it will store the differential backup file from this standby machine to the installation location of HyperBoot. So by default, C program files and so on. So this will work most of the time perfectly, but please keep in mind, if you, for example, have a really small local C drive, in my case, I have here around 70 gigs of free space left. So I don't need to worry about anything in my example. But maybe the emergency machine has on C drive only 10 gigabytes left or something like that. So really a small amount of free space. So what happens if the differential image file stores the changes from the machine and it will exceed the free space of the local C? Your machine will crash or something bad will happen. So to avoid this kind of problem, just click here, save to the same location with original image set. Normally, your backup location has plenty of space left. Yeah. So in this situation, for example, it would be my D drive, which has 161 gigabyte free space. Yeah, just an example. Maybe you have a NAS device with 2 terabytes and the backup file itself is just 500 gigabyte. So you have plenty of free space left. Yeah, just if you're not sure to 100% with the free space, the best is save to the same location as the original image set because normally you have enough free space on this location. But if you store the changes on a local drive, you can also have benefits. If you have, for example, a SSD drive on your local machine, like I have here, yeah, that's a SSD drive locally, and I saved changes on my C drive, the I/O performance is much faster than on my NAS device, for example. Yeah, so you can also have a benefit storing locally the changes. Yeah, so this is a really important setting, and this file later is important for the full recovery because it will now save all the changes when you boot up the machine to this file. Yeah, so I show you in a couple of moments how it works. So by default, you see the disk from the backup, yeah, just the bootable device in my example. Network adapters, I don't want to have network enabled because this machine is already existing in the network, and then I click save. So now it has created this profile locally. So it's just a profile, it's nothing less, yeah? So we have still no usable machine, we have nothing. It's just a profile with all the settings. You can edit if you want, yeah, to adjust your settings, yeah, just to be sure everything is fine. Okay, and now we can right click or on the small button here on bottom, power on the machine. So now in the background, our software will now add the backup files as iSCSI disk. With this technology, we can pass through, you see here, to the A6i machine via iSCSI the disk from the backup. So even we have just an image file, we can pass through this information to the A6i box. You see, it creates a VM with the temporary name, and then it boots up the VM, and we can use this VM right now on. So we don't need to wait any second, yeah, to really have a reusable machine. It is an instant availability solution. So just choose your backup, click on start. It will mount the backup as an iSCSI disk. Our software will automatically add this to the target machine. Yeah, just attach this disk, yeah, because it's iSCSI, no problem for VMware or Hyper-V. And then it starts up the machine. So, and now we can have a look into the machine. Just launch the VMware console. And here we go. So this technology now save the changes. One moment. When we minimize this application to C drive, program files, net Japan. Sorry, wrong location. Program files, net Japan, HyperBoot, and recovery points, default location. And here's the subfolder with the name of my profile. And here is the differential file. So this file now will store all the changes when we start on the machine, because by default, we don't change anything on the source backup files. We don't want to change anything because all the changes always should be stored to a separate dedicated image file, so that nothing can went wrong. Yeah, and here the machine is now already started up, and we can now continue using this machine. So as I said, it's a temporary failover machine. It's not for permanent use, because still the machine is just in backup file with read-only access, yeah, and via iSCSI pass through this to the hypervisor. This will not offer the same performance as a real fully restored machine, of course, but for a temporary failover, for testing, or for other subjects, it's a really great solution. Especially you can show the customer, the end user, that his backups from his machines can always restored quickly in a case of disaster. Yeah, so even you have no real replica or cold standby machine prepared on the client side, you can use this technology still, even you have just a Windows 10 machine, booting up the image and continue working on it. Yeah, so that's why the HyperBoot feature is a really useful feature. So here we go. I want to power off the machine. One moment. I have clicked on save. That was not really clever. I want to shut down the machine, not save. One moment. Here we go. And power off the machine. Because we have the machine in our list. One moment. Here. Yeah. And now we can use drag and drop, for example, to add the auto backup to my auto hypervisor. So for example, Hyper-V. Yeah, so drag and drop to the local machine. You see again the same dialog box. And now you can specify again the settings. In my case, just a different operating system. Specify amount of CPU cores, memory assignment, network adapters not connected in my case, and I can choose one of the backup recovery points. So what kind of recovery I want to choose, for example, from this date and time. Okay, then click on save, and now it has saved the configuration file, and now we can start on this machine as well. The only difference is now I'm booting on Hyper-V. Yeah. So in a couple of moments, it will add the machine on this list here and will boot up the machine. Yeah. So it's just for your information. Yeah. So in the background, we're mounting the image file, and then it will start up the machine. So from technical point of view, it's always the same automatic steps. You see here, it created the machine, and now it will start on the machine to continue and able to use the machine running, and now it's booting up. So you see, it's a really simple but useful application. Yeah, and with a few clicks, you are ready to have a disaster and failover scenario for your customers. So have you any questions so far? I think it's a really great self-explaining application, I guess. You have still maybe detailed questions, so feel free to ask. As I said, Hyper-V and VMware A6i are recommended because the best performance and compatibility. What operating system we support for Hyper-V, for example? So Hyper-V starting with Hyper-V 2012 R2 and newer is supported. And if you use VMware A6i, we're supporting A6i version 6.5 and version 6.7. Older versions of A6i are not supported. They have limitations which are not that great for this solution. Yeah, so 6.5 and 6.7 for A6i is supported. And also important information, 3 versions of A6i not supported at all for this feature, because there are some limitations by VMware if you have no license enabled on your A6i host. Okay, so These are the informations. Yeah? But for Hyper-V, if you have a Hyper-V core server, which is a free license, yeah, it's supported, no problem. There is no difference to a regular Windows server with enabled Hyper-V role, for example. Yeah. So, and if you have, or if you need more information, I recommend we have here a button Help, and it will show you in detail the supported operating systems. So, for example, here in the list, so you see again the supported hypervisors, VMware Workstation, VMware Player, VirtualBox, all the informations just with one click in the software on Help. It will also offer you the complete overview. And you see the machine is running and usable. Yeah, so easy and fast and always usable for your clients. Yeah, so as I said, if any technical questions, please let me know. So far, I hope this overview gave all of you a great information, what you can do with the software, what features you can provide, and what is supported. I think the most important information should be covered. I want to thank you for all your time. Please let us know if you have questions, and I wish all of you a great day, and I hope we see you in another webinar session later. Thanks and bye-bye.